New South Wales Labor MP Ryan Park is the Shadow Minister for Health. He joins me now from Sydney. Thank you for your time, Shadow Minister. I want to start on this issue of hotel quarantine. I know you have been calling for it for some time. I support the comments that you've made in the last few days. I think it was a gaping hole in the security system of New South Wales. We've seen this action taken today. Why do you think it took so long?
Well, no one can explain to me, Peter, why we had a situation up until this afternoon where if you flew in from New Zealand, you would be expected to go into hotel quarantine where there's only been a handful of cases, but you could fly up from Melbourne and you're on your way in an Uber or a taxi. It had all the hallmarks of a Ruby Princess Mark II all over again.
So what was the reason then that the Premier had to step in? Why was it, failings of the Health Minister, failings of official advice? What was the issue?
Well, quite clearly, that's another failing of this Health Minister. Quite clearly, this is a government who has said all along that they are working off the health advice. I don't know what has happened in the last 24 hours on why that health advice has changed. I note today when the Minister was asked to produce that health advice, he didn't do it. What the community need is consistent, accurate and timely information. This confusion is causing problems. And the last thing we need for jobs in our economy is to go like the way of Victoria.
Well, just on that, there's been a debate down here about why masks weren't brought in earlier. They seem to be almost an afterthought. We're now obviously tonight going into stage 4. Why is it when you could survive and not get to where we are that you're not bringing masks in as mandatory in New South Wales? Isn't that a good step to avoid Victoria's circumstances?
Well, look, we've said from the very beginning now, and we've repeatedly asked the Premier, in the areas such as on public transport, in shopping centres and retail precincts, and in religious gatherings, 3 large areas where you cannot adopt those social distancing rules and guidelines, then make masks mandatory. Because, Peter, the amount of people who say to me, just in my own community, Ryan, am I meant to wear one if I go here? Am I not meant to wear one if I'm on the train? These guidelines need to be firm. We need to get fair dinkum about this. 1 month ago, Peter, we were in the same situation as Victoria with about 11 cases. Now we have a Victorian economy turned off, which is about 25% of the Australian economy. The last thing we need for jobs and the workforce here is for that to occur in New South Wales.
Yeah, I don't know the reluctance that people have against masks in New South Wales. It's a relatively low cost for people to acquire a mask. You don't, as a general community member, have to have a medical grade mask. It's better than the alternative. It's better than going back into lockdown. So why the reluctance from government?
Well, I can't understand it, and it just seems the case with this Premier and this government. If someone else other than them put forward a reasonable suggestion in a pandemic, exactly what the community expect political leaders to be doing now, having sensible debates, they won't do it. The reality is, Peter, wearing a mask saves lives, but it also saves jobs and the economy. And that is absolutely critical. And the damage that we've seen in Victoria is something that New South Wales has to avoid.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I wish we'd had masks a lot earlier here and, mightn't have to put up with the curfew and permits to get to work. Ryan Park, thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot.